Welcome to Part 5 of training for new modifications made to CAPS for APS placements, services, and expenditures. In this training, we will demonstrate how to enter requests to pay for services using a P card. First, let's do a quick review. CAPS has a new tab where you will find most of the new modifications for APS. The tab is called the Placement, Services, Payment tab, which is abbreviated as you see on this slide. This new tab contains 4 subtabs. The first one is the Placement subtab. Second is the Services subtab. Third is the Level of Care subtab. And fourth is the P-Card subtab. Notice that the bottom of the Placement and Services subtabs have fields to show how much money we estimate we are spending on this adult. Additional costs such as food, clothing, and prescriptions, the total we have paid so far for placements and services, and the level of care also show at the bottom of the screen. A total amount for all entries that have a cost associated with them will show here. Now, let's look at a P-card request. First, I entered a service that is eligible to be paid by a P-card. The service must be entered in CAPS and approved before you can proceed to the P-card process outlined in this training. Next, click on the P-card tab of the Placement Services Payment tab. Click on the Update button in the upper right corner of the screen. Then click the Add button in the lower right corner of the screen. The APS P-card request screen opens. All of the services that are eligible to be paid with a P-card appear in the APS Placement Service box. Remember that only regional directors can pay for motel costs with a P-card. Check the box beside the service you want to pay with a P-card. You can only select one service at a time. However, you can request payment for multiple services from the same vendor in one request, as I'll explain in a few slides. Enter the start date and end date that you purchased this service. These should be the same date. Enter the last 4 digits of the P-card, then the vendor name. Enter the vendor name exactly as it appears in the APS Placement Services box at the top of this screen. Enter the Ship To location, which is where the adult is located, and finally select the supervisor's name from the drop-down list and click the Add button. The P-card details box will open. Enter the quantity of items. All other fields in this box are populated by caps. Next, click the Finish button. The service you're requesting to be paid with a P-card is listed in the grid on the right side of the screen. If there was another service listed in the APS Placement Service box on the left side of the screen from the same vendor and on the same date, you can add it to this request using the same process outlined in the previous 2 slides. When you have entered all service items for this vendor, click the Submit for Approval button. The request has a status of requested in the grid on the P-card screen. The supervisor will receive an alert notification. Click on Alerts at the top of the screen. Click on the underlined number to open the case. Notice that the request is a P-card request in the description field. This tells you which tab to open in the case file. Also, you can drag the line that the blue arrow is pointing to in order to expand the description field and see the request ID number. When the case file opens, make selections for the recipient and program service fields, then click the Placement Services Payment tab. Remember from the alert screen that this is a P-card request. so click on the P-Card tab within the Placement Services payment screen. Click to highlight the request you want to work with, and click the Update button in the upper right corner of the screen. Click the View button in the lower right corner of the screen. The request will open. Review the information on the request screen, then click the X in the upper right corner of the screen. Click either the Approve P-Card or Reject P-Card button in the lower left corner of the screen. Notice that the total approved amount field at the bottom of the screen updates with the total amounts listed in the Approved Amount column. Click the Commit button when the approval has been completed. The case manager will get an email notification stating that the request was approved or denied. After the request is approved, the case manager can click the Generate 37190 button to get a copy of the form that has to be loaded into Bank America Works for P-Card purchases. Click the green button in the upper left corner of the form to print it. Then you can scan it into Bank of America Works. Thank you for your time. Please watch Part 6 of this training to complete the training for new APS modifications in CAPS.